Welcome back to the channel today, guys. And okay, so I did a community post yesterday on the channel asking you guys what you wanted to see today on the channel. And every single vote went to one series in particular. And by the title, you guessed it, it's Spy Classroom. Now, immediately, right away, before we even get into the episode, let me say, I like it. It's okay. I think it's okay. Off of this first episode alone, I think this is a good start. It sets up our story well, and it gives us an idea of, alright, where we're going. Lily as a main character, I kind of like her as a main character. I could see her growing on me as the series goes on. But I'll say immediately before we get in, what's the shtick, you know? That's my big takeaway from the first episode. What is the shtick? Is it really just going to be cute girls that are just, oh, they're spies, by the way. Oh, we brought in a bunch of cute girls and now they're super spies. Like, I could see that being good, but it needs more. I kept thinking to myself watching the episode, like, all right, this is good, but like, when's it going to start picking up? Now, with a series like this, with this episode, I feel like it's going to heavily depend on the characters. The characters, I feel like, are going to carry this series. So, I want to see a couple more episodes before I can really, have a definitive opinion. But that's enough of that. Let's get into it and talk about it. We'll talk about it more as we go through the episode. So let's get into it and talk about Spy Classroom Episode 1 today, because there's a decent amount to unpack. Now, right away, right off the jump, the series throws us in and gives us a clear picture of how this world is by saying, the world is awash in pain. The Great War was the biggest war in human history, and it left the world's nations with deep scars. Its conclusion brought about a radical change in world affairs. And it's from here that we transition to a man painting. Not well, mind you. He's not painting well. Hey, he's trying his hardest, as he gets approached by another man who asks him, or who tells him, I've got a special mission for you. As of tomorrow, you're splitting off from the team for a solo op. It's what they call an impossible mission. The success rate on him is less than 10%, and failure means death. You up for it? As our painter friend says, if those are your orders, master, then consider it done. But our finely tailored individual decides, let me sweeten the pot a little bit, as he says, how about this, idiot pupil? If you make it back alive, I've got a new title for you. How does the greatest spy in the world sound? I'd say you have earned it. As our painter friend smiles and says, magnificent. And it's here we get back into a little bit of world building as we hear the politicians all realized how poor the cost performance of war was. Due to how advanced modern science was, weapons were too effective at killing. Ain't that the truth, though? And with that, the era of nations pointing their guns at each other out in the open came to an end. And it's here we see a group of young women infiltrating this facility, and doing a fairly good job of it at that, as we hear, now, battles are fought between spies over information. And these wars of information are called Shadow Wars. And it's here we see the title card, Spy Classroom. But let's roll it on back a little bit from there, you know? Let's go back to a later scene as we hear, it's been 10 years since the Great War's end. During that time, in the Din Republic, we've used that time to build spy academies. And it's here we meet our main character, Lily, who goes to such an academy. And Lily is through the roof about graduating from the academy right now. She's got to get brought down to earth again as she hears, I'll remind you that it's only a provisional graduation, Lily. There's a newly formed spy team that says they just have to have you. As the lady says, as of today, the cabinet office is going to be borrowing you for a bit. The notice says you'll learn the details on site, and they also told you to wear this uniform. As Lily stands proud and says, codename Flower Garden, ready to put my life on the line, ma'am. And as Lily leaves the academy to go out and spread her wings in the world to her new assignment, we just hear 8 years. It's a wonder they kept me around so long after I came so close to failing out so many times. And as we see Lily heading to her destination, I gotta say right away, the show gives me very bright and cheerful vibes, which is a little weird for a spy and espionage kind of show. But that's just the vibes I get from Lily as a character. A very bright and vibrant personality. So we'll have to see where she goes from here, but so far I like her. And as Lily gets to her destination, through a bit of trial and error, I might add, and a little bit of spyness, she eventually finds the place where she needs to go to, as she busts open the door and says, "Codename Flower Gardens in the house, baby, let's do this." As she's immediately met by a bunch of girls here, who just look at her like, who is this weirdo? And immediately upon entering, she gets asked, "Hey, you with the silver hair, you got any field experience? What were your academy grades like?" As Lily stumbles and says, "You know, it was kind of a provisional graduation, and I was kind of a washout, kind of, sorta, not really." As she gets told immediately, "Well, join the club. It's the same with us." And it's here we just hear magnificent, as we see our terrible painter friend is here yet again. Now this man gets immediately down to business as he says, "Thank you all for coming. This spy team is called Lamplight. And my name's Klaus, the team's boss. Lamplight was put together to specialize in impossible missions. Together, myself and the 7 of you here make up its full roster. 1 month from now, we'll be taking on an impossible mission. Training starts tomorrow. For today, your job is to get to know your teammates." And our boy Klaus just up and leaves them with that much information, like, okay. As one of the girls says, "What's that guy thinking? Who goes and gathers up a bunch of problem students to do an impossible mission with? Like, what?" As that girl tells Lily, "You heard me. We're all washouts. Our academies were all too happy to get rid of us." As this man Klaus just ends up dropping a letter from the staircase. Why he couldn't just hand it and had to be extra, hand it to them and had to be extra, I couldn't tell you why, but he did. And when the letter's open, we see that it's the communal living rules. And yes, guys, I know that someone has actually translated the German on the letter and has like posted it on Twitter. I did see a little bit of it, but I didn't want to read a lot of it to spoil the show. I know one of them is you can only like sell your organs like once a day or something. Like crazy stuff like that. So I do know to a little extent what's on this. And it's kind of weird, but I like it. It's funny. I might go look at that after this episode now. And it's here we transition to all the girls sitting down and talking with each other to try to figure out exactly why they're all here. As we get introduced to all of them. As we see Siblia, codename Pandemonium. Gretty, codename Daughter Dearest. Annette, codename Forgetter. Sarah, codename Meadow. Monica, codename Glint. Thea, codename Dream Speaker. And of course, Lily, codename Flower Garden. And it's here Sarah says, you know, something's fishy about all of this. I mean, impossible missions, as Thea cuts her off, are difficult tasks with mortality rates of over 90%, even for first-rate spies. Why do one with an entire group of underperforming washouts? And I gotta say, guys, I'm asking myself the same question. Like, what's the real goal here? And immediately, I gotta tell you guys, this show, to me, seems like it's going to live or die by the characters. The characters are going to have to be, great for this show. Immediately, that's the feeling I get. And it's here we transition to Klaus's first training session with the girls, as he says, 1 month from now, we'll be infiltrating the hostile Galgad Empire and completing an impossible mission. As he says, at the moment, that's all I can tell you. But there's no need to be worried. And here, let me show you why. As he asks them, can any of you open these? As he shows them all a lock. As they all try to open the lock, but they can't do it. So Klaus goes around, takes the lock, and unlocks all of them in seconds. Like, you're not even a spy, bro. You're like a superhero at this point. As he says, once you've taken my lessons, you'll be able to do the same in no time. Over the next month, I'll be training you here in Heat Haze Palace until you're strong enough to complete impossible missions. As he asks them all, does anyone have resignations about this? And nobody says anything. As he says, good. Now, as long as for the lock-picking lesson goes, just use your picking tool correctly, dummies. That concludes my lesson. And they're all like, wait, what? As they ask him, could you be a bit more clear about that? As Klaus just unlocks all the locks again and says, that's it. That concludes my lesson. As he says, as you can see, the locks will open if you use your tools correctly. As Lily's like, teach, we were hoping for an actual explanation here. Thank you very much. As Klaus is just like, were you really unable to follow that? You just pick it, ladies. That's all you do. You use it right. As Klaus is like, damn, I was thinking about having the next set of lectures be the talk beautifully lesson on negotiation. The just take them down lesson on combat. And of course, the it'll all work out lesson on disguises. You're saying you don't think you'll be able to follow any of those? As Lily just says, nope. And Klaus is like, magnificent. I'm only just learning this. But apparently, I'm quite bad at teaching. I'm sitting here like, you freaking think, dude? You think you're bad at teaching? Just a little bit. Just a smidge. As he walks away saying, forget it. The rest of the day is going to be self-study. Go figure it out yourself. And as we transition afterwards to the girls talking with each other, they have zero faith in Klaus. They have zero faith he's going to be able to lead them. As Annette even says, yo, I'm pretty sure we're going to get slaughtered, yo. That's the voice I have for her when she talks. I don't know why, I just do. As Lily's just sitting there like, I'm sure Teach has some sort of plan. Hopefully. As Sarah says to the group, I think I figured it out. We have a group of washouts and a teacher who can't teach. I think he's going to use us as sacrificial pawns. And as we transition later that night, we see that Lily's steeling herself to make a decision on something as she says, I'm codename Flower Garden, and it's time to bloom out of control. And it's here she actually goes to Klaus's room and says to him, Teach, how about we go sightseeing? As a breather, a nice change of pace can help the creative juices flow after all. Maybe it'd help you be a better teacher. As Klaus says, the idea doesn't really speak to me, but do you have anywhere in mind? As Lily says, yeah, I made a list of all the local attractions. And Klaus says, all right, fine. Let's take a little break tomorrow then. And as we transition to the next day, this is damn near a date. This turned into a date all of a sudden. And I'm like, what? Okay. All right. As Klaus even says, I expected the others to be here too. As Lily's just like, yeah, they all kind of turned me down. Sorry about that. And as they're walking around with each other, talking about nothing really important. Pasta facts. Every spy loves pasta, of course. We just hear thief. Someone stop him as we see this guy stole a lady's purse. Like, who does that shit anymore? Who actually does that? But anyway, he runs past Klaus and Lily, and Klaus gets the purse back with the quickness. The absolute quickness in an instant. Even Lily's standing there a little dumbfounded as she asks him, tell me, how did you do that just now? And he tells her, I just did. Let me ask you, how'd you put your shirt on this morning? As Lily answers and says, I just did. And Klaus says, and that's exactly how I feel. As Lily says, wait, you're saying you did that thing just now and the lockpicking yesterday without consciously thinking about it? As Klaus says, yes, I can say that I used the picking tool correctly. But there's no way for me to come up with specific, systematic explanations that would make sense to others. Because I perform the actions on instinct. And it's here all of a sudden that Lily notices an advertisement for what appears to be a lake as she says, let's go here next. And as they get there, Klaus tells her that this is a My Lake, the most popular tourist attraction in the region. If you take a boat to the middle of the lake, you can enjoy Mother Nature in all of her splendor. And they do just that as they find a boat and decide to head out there. But Klaus says, hold on, Lily. It's the man's job to get in first, to make sure it's safe, and offer the lady his hand. And I'm thinking, oh, what a proper gentleman we got here, guys. Crazy. As she takes his hand and they head out on the boat. Now, I have to admit, it is beautiful. If you guys have ever done this in real life, it is actually really nice to do. To go out on a boat like this at sunset, it is very pleasant. As Klaus tells her, never forget this sight, Lily. Never forget the natural views so picturesque that you want to embrace them. Never forget the smiles you saw at the market. Never forget the people cherishing their loved ones under the setting sun's light. As Klaus tells her, someone once planted a bomb in that very same Maple Lane we were at today. They were an Imperial agent trying to assassinate one of our politicians. And the people who promptly got a hold of that intel and put a stop to the plot, as Lily finishes and says, were our fellow spies from the Republic, huh? As Klaus tells her, our whole world is awash with pain. The war scars still linger, but our people are slowly starting to find their smiles again. The only people who can protect them are spies like us. But it's in this moment our tone starts changing a little bit, as Lily says, so what? I should just become a sacrificial pawn? That's why you gathered up a bunch of washouts, right? But if I die now, then my whole life will have been for nothing. The only thing that got me through those harsh years at the academy was the idea that someday I'd be able to bloom. As she says, I get how important this mission must be, but I'm sorry. I can't accompany you, Teach. I'm codenamed Flower Garden, and it's time to bloom out of control. As all of a sudden she sprays this poison gas everywhere, and Klaus goes down as she says, don't worry, it's just a paralytic. As Klaus, surprised, says, I don't get it. You got hit too. And Lily tells him, this poison doesn't work on me. I've got an abnormal physiology. That's how I became my village's sole survivor during the Great War. And it's here we get a flashback sequence of these soldiers standing in this poison gas-filled village. And we see this one girl, no mask on, just standing there. And as we transition back, Lily says, back then, a spy saved my life. The only reason the army sent a team there was because spies told them what had happened. I want to become a spy and save my country. I want to change the world, even just a little. But when we spent the day together, I became sure of something. You can't teach, and if we stay on lamplight, we're just gonna die. I'm a poison specialist. Your defeat was sealed the moment you got on this boat. As Lily continues and says, I want lamplight disbanded, and I want you to get us all jobs on other spy teams. If you won't cooperate, I'll stab you with this poison needle. And it's here we really get a sense that Lily's been through a lot in her life to get to this point. And she's not ready to throw it away on something she considers a suicide mission like lamplight. As Klaus says, so, your goal is to survive, huh? I recognize your efforts, certainly. But how much longer should I keep playing around with this game? As we see, he actually cuffs her feet together with handcuffs. And the boat actually starts sinking here. And it's here that Klaus shows he's no slouch either, as he says, last night, despite its incredible popularity, Amai Lake was conspicuously absent from that sightseeing list you gave me. It stank to high heaven. If you were going to pull something in a place as busy as this lake, the logical place to do it would be on a boat where you could make sure nobody else was around. As Lily says, damn, I left the lake off my list so you couldn't predict where I would attack you. As she asks him, how could you have known we would take the boat? As Klaus looks over at an out of order sign and Lily realizes, you set this all up last night. You were a gentleman earlier to divert my attention from that sign. As Lily tries to break out of the chains here and Klaus says, don't bother. You aren't qualified to be my enemy, Lily. As Klaus tells her, I realized you were plotting to attack me the moment you came into my room last night. As she asks him how, and he says the same thing again. I just did. As Klaus says, you better hurry up and give me the antidote now, or we're both gonna sink here. And Lily says, fine, you win. And as Lily reaches into her pocket, she realizes, yeah, I might have left the antidote in my room by accident. As Lily asks him, so, you got the keys for these shackles? And he's like, no, not on me. As he tells her, you better row like your life depends on it, because we're gonna die. And as they make their way to the shore, Klaus just tells her, you know, that was some excellent poison you gave me. As Lily says, yeah, but you let yourself get hit on purpose, didn't you? As he says, I did. I wanted to test your skills. As Lily starts getting depressed, like, man, we're terrible students, you suck at teaching, and impossible missions are as deadly as they come. I guess I just have to give up. And all I wanted was to bloom into a spy I could be proud of. But Klaus does something unexpected, and he tells her, you have what it takes. Our battle may have been little more than a game, but the fact you saw the impending crisis and took steps to prevent it faster than anyone else was unreservedly magnificent. As he says, Lily, I want you to become Lamplight's leader. As he says, I'll still be the team's boss, but we need someone for the rest of you to rally around. As she says, that sounds cool, but what's this about completing the mission? You can't teach your way out of a paper bag, bro. As Klaus says, I solved that problem. I just came up with a new teaching method, and it's all thanks to you, Flower Garden Lily. And it's here we transition back to the manor where Klaus calls all the girls together to address them as he says, my poor explanations caused the misunderstanding, and I'd like to start by clearing that up. None of you are sacrificial pawns. Everyone's going to live, and we're going to complete that impossible mission. That's what I hand-selected this group of magnificent members for. I'm no paltry first-rate spy. I'm the greatest spy in the world. If we work together, this impossible mission is going to be child's play. As Lily actually backs him up and says, I agree, Teach is going to take Lamplight to greatness. As your team leader, I guarantee it. As Klaus says, I've already figured out a curriculum that will improve your skills. And our episode ends with Klaus telling them, you have to defeat me. And I gotta say, I do like the premise of how this world has gone past, like, guns and tanks and all that to fight warfare. And wars are settled on information. That's kind of like how it is nowadays. Like, how we don't send in physical people to do things. We send in, like, drones. But in this instance, they send in spies to get information out of other countries. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that we have spy academies apparently all across the country in this world to train spies for this new age of warfare. And this show does have kind of an interesting concept, you know? But again, it's like I said, this show to me feels like it's going to live or die by the characters. The characters have to be very good. And so far, I really like Klaus and Lily. I can tell immediately that they both have a lot of baggage with them. And as we progress through the show, I'm sure we're going to get more and more into all the characters. All the girls here, Klaus and everyone. We're going to get more information about them. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. But I need to see a couple more episodes before I can form a real opinion, you know? But I gave you guys an extra long one today, so I really hope you appreciate it. I wanted to be nice and thorough because there's a lot to go over with this show. And so far, it gets a good review from me. I'm liking it. I want to see where it goes. So you guys let me know what you thought of the episode down below. Quite a long one, but a fun one, hopefully for y'all. So until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And I will see you guys then. Deuces.